Emily Saunders had always dreamed of a peaceful life. At 28, she finally had it, or so she thought. She lived in a quaint little house in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina, with her 6-month-old son, Noah. Her husband, Jack, had passed away tragically in a car accident a year ago, leaving Emily heartbroken yet determined to raise their child as best as she could. Her days were simple but fulfilling. She spent her mornings preparing bottles and folding tiny onesies while Noah babbled away in his crib. Afternoons were for walks in the park and quiet moments in the nursery, reading bedtime stories. Evenings were filled with a bittersweet sense of peace as she looked at the photo of Jack that hung in the living room, reminding her of everything she had lost and the love she would always cherish. But Emily's tranquil world was about to be disrupted. The trouble began one chilly autumn afternoon when the doorbell rang. Emily opened the door to find Vanessa, Jack's older sister, standing on the porch. Vanessa was the kind of person who exuded confidence, tall, with sharp features and an air of entitlement that made Emily uneasy. "Emily," Vanessa said with a forced smile, her eyes darting past her into the house. "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop by to see my nephew." Emily hesitated. Vanessa had never shown much interest in Noah before. She'd skipped the baby shower, hadn't visited after he was born, and had only sent a perfunctory text after Jack's funeral. Her sudden appearance felt odd. "Of course," Emily said, stepping aside. "Come in." Vanessa strode in, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She made her way straight to the living room, where Noah was playing with a soft toy on his play mat. She crouched down, picking him up without asking. "He's adorable," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "He looks so much like Jack." Emily nodded, her maternal instincts bristling at how casually Vanessa had scooped up her son. Vanessa stayed longer than Emily had expected. She asked questions about Noah's routine, his pediatrician, and even his future plans for preschool. Emily answered politely but briefly, hoping to discourage further probing. "You know," Vanessa began, her tone shifting, "I've been thinking. With Jack gone, it must be so hard for you to manage everything on your own." Emily's stomach tightened. "It's challenging, but I'm managing." Vanessa leaned forward, her expression sympathetic. "I'm just saying, maybe Noah would benefit from being around family who can provide more stability." "Vanessa," Emily said, her voice firm, "Noah and I are doing just fine. He has everything he needs." Vanessa's smile faltered. Of course. But if you ever need help, you know where to find me." Emily nodded, eager to end the conversation. But as Vanessa left, Emily couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that this was far from over. 2 weeks later, Emily received a letter in the mail. The sender's name made her heart sink. Vanessa Carter. She tore it open, her hands trembling. It was a formal notice stating that Vanessa was seeking custody of Noah, claiming that Emily was unfit to provide a stable home. Emily's vision blurred with tears as she read the document. The accusations were baseless, but cruel. Vanessa claimed that Emily's financial situation was precarious and that her emotional state, still grieving Jack, made her incapable of raising a child. The nerve of her, Emily thought, fury replacing her initial shock. She had saved every penny Jack had left her, budgeting carefully to ensure Noah's needs were met. She might not have been rich, but she was far from unfit. Emily immediately called her best friend, Rachel. "Rachel, you won't believe what Vanessa is trying to do," Emily said, her voice shaking. Rachel's response was immediate. "She's crazy, Em. You're an amazing mom. There's no way a court would side with her." But Emily wasn't so sure. Vanessa had money and influence, two things that could tip the scales in her favor. And as much as Emily hated to admit it, Vanessa's polished demeanor and connections could paint a very different picture in court. Emily wasted no time contacting a family lawyer, a kind yet sharp woman named Linda Parker. "Vanessa doesn't have a leg to stand on," Linda assured her after reviewing the notice. "But we need to be thorough. Gather every document that proves your financial stability, your parenting skills, and your emotional well-being." Emily nodded, determined to fight for her son. She spent the next several weeks gathering pay stubs, Noah's medical records, and even letters from neighbors and friends attesting to her character. Meanwhile, Vanessa's interference escalated. She began showing up unannounced, criticizing Emily's parenting, and even attempting to take Noah out of his crib during a particularly tense visit. Emily had to ask her to leave, locking the door behind her. As word of the custody battle spread, Emily found support from unexpected places. Her neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, offered to testify on her behalf, sharing stories of how dedicated Emily was to Noah. Rachel organized a fundraiser to help cover Emily's legal fees, rallying friends and community members to her side. But Vanessa wasn't backing down. She hired a high-profile attorney and began digging into Emily's past, looking for anything that could be used against her. Old photos from college parties surfaced, along with rumors about Emily's mental health after Jack's death. Emily felt the pressure mounting but refused to let it break her. The day of the custody hearing arrived, and Emily walked into the courthouse with her head held high. She wore a simple black dress and carried a folder of meticulously organized documents. Linda walked beside her, exuding calm confidence. Vanessa was already seated, her lawyer whispering in her ear. She turned and gave Emily a tight, condescending smile. The judge, a stern-looking man with salt and pepper hair, called the session to order. Vanessa's lawyer began by painting a picture of Emily as an overwhelmed single mother with limited resources. He highlighted the photos from her college days and made veiled references to her grieving process, suggesting it made her emotionally unstable. Emily's heart pounded, but she kept her composure. When it was Linda's turn, she presented evidence of Emily's stable finances, glowing character references, and a detailed account of Noah's happy and healthy life under her care. The most powerful moment came when Mrs. Henderson took the stand. "I've lived next door to Emily for 3 years," she said. "I've seen her love and care for Noah every single day. She's an incredible mother." Vanessa's case began to crumble under the weight of the evidence and testimonies. The judge adjourned for the day, promising a decision soon. A week later, Emily stood in the courtroom, holding her breath as the judge delivered his verdict. After reviewing the evidence and testimonies, he said, "It is clear that Noah is thriving under his mother's care. Custody will remain with Emily Saunders." Relief washed over Emily as she hugged Linda and Rachel, tears streaming down her face. Vanessa stormed out of the courtroom, her expression a mix of anger and disbelief. Outside, Emily held Noah tightly, vowing never to let anyone threaten their bond again. In the weeks that followed, Emily focused on rebuilding her life. She joined a support group for single mothers, deepened her friendships, and even started a small business from home to supplement her income. Vanessa's attempts to interfere ceased, and Emily found peace in knowing that she had stood up for herself and her son. As she watched Noah take his first steps one sunny afternoon, Emily realized that their little family was stronger than ever. And no one could take that away. Months passed without any sign of Vanessa, and Emily began to believe that the battle was truly over. But one evening, as she was putting Noah to bed, she heard a knock at the door. Rachel, who was visiting, opened it to find Vanessa standing there, looking disheveled and uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I need to talk," Vanessa said, her voice unsteady. Rachel glanced at Emily, who reluctantly agreed. Vanessa stepped inside, clutching a folder. She looked at Emily, her usual arrogance replaced with something akin to regret. I owe you an apology," Vanessa began. "I was wrong. I thought I was doing what was best for Noah, but I see now that I was selfish and misguided." Emily studied her sister-in-law's face, searching for any signs of deception. Why the sudden change of heart? Vanessa sighed. "After the court ruling, I did some soul-searching. I realized I was trying to hold on to Jack in the wrong way. Noah isn't my child, and I had no right to interfere." She placed the folder on the coffee table. "This is everything I dug up on you. I want you to have it. Destroy it if you want. I'm done fighting." Emily hesitated before picking up the folder. It was a peace offering, one that she hadn't expected. "Thank you," she said quietly. Vanessa nodded. "I'm leaving for a while. Maybe it's time I focus on my own life instead of meddling in yours." After Vanessa's departure, Emily found herself surprisingly at peace. She had never expected an apology, let alone one that seemed sincere. Over time, she let go of the resentment she'd been holding onto, choosing instead to focus on the future. Noah continued to grow, his laughter filling the house with joy. Emily's small business thrived, allowing her to provide a comfortable life for her son. She even began to entertain the idea of dating again, though she knew it would be a slow process. One day, while sorting through old photos, Emily came across a picture of Jack and Vanessa together, both smiling. She placed it in Noah's keepsake box, a collection of mementos she had been quietly building over the years, items she hoped would one day help him understand the complexities of his family's past. It was not an act of forgiveness, but rather one of acceptance. As she closed the lid of the box, Emily felt a sense of calm. Life was not perfect, but it was hers to rebuild, and she was doing just that. The weight of the past no longer felt as heavy as it once had. That evening, after putting Noah to bed, Emily sat on the porch with a cup of tea, staring at the stars. The air was crisp, and the gentle rustle of the wind brought a rare stillness to her thoughts. Her phone buzzed, pulling her attention back to the present. It was a text from Amanda, her closest friend. "Movie night this Friday? We've missed you." Emily smiled, typing back a quick reply. "Count me in. Thanks for always being there." The next day, while running errands, Emily ran into an old acquaintance, Lucas. He was kind, soft-spoken, and had always treated her with respect during their brief interactions years ago. "Emily," he said, his surprise mirrored in her eyes. "It's been a while. How have you been?" They chatted briefly, catching up on life's changes. As they parted ways, Lucas hesitated. "Hey, if you're free sometime, maybe we could grab coffee?" Emily hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "That sounds nice." Later that night, as she tucked Noah in, he hugged her tightly and whispered, "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too, buddy," she replied, her heart full. For the first time in years, Emily felt like the chapters of her life were no longer being written by others. She was holding the pen now, and with every small choice she made, she was creating a story of resilience, hope, and love.